You think your kindness is a choice. It isn't. You are good only because you are too afraid to be anything else. A sheep isn't virtuous because it doesn't bite. It's just a sheep. To be truly moral, you must first be dangerous. Without the capacity for teeth, your peace is just a surrender. You aren't a saint. You're just a victim waiting for a predator to notice you're harmless. Look around you. The world is a hierarchy of hidden costs. Every time you swallow your tongue to keep the peace, you are paying a tax. You call it being nice. I call it a liquidation sale of your own soul. In every room, in every board meeting, in every relationship, there is a silent audit happening. People are constantly testing your perimeter. They are looking for the soft spots. When you prioritize being liked over being respected, you are signaling that your boundaries are negotiable. You are broadcasting that your time, your energy, and your dignity are available for rent at the lowest possible price. The harmless man is the first one to be sacrificed. Why? Because the cost of offending him is zero. If there are no teeth behind your smile is just an invitation for others to walk over you. You think people appreciate your selflessness. They don't. They consume it. They treat your goodness as a utility, like electricity or running water, something that is expected to be there and only noticed when it's gone. You've become a commodity in someone else's strategy. You are the buffer for their mistakes and the ladder for their climb. Look at your own life. How many favors have you done that left you feeling drained? How many times have you said yes when your gut screamed no? That feeling of resentment in your chest isn't a mistake. It's your shadow trapped in the basement, screaming at you to stop being a doormat. You aren't being a good person by letting people exploit you. You are a co-conspirator in your own destruction. True leverage comes from the unknown. It comes from the subtext of danger. When people don't exactly know how far they can push you before you strike back, they treat you with a specific kind of carefulness. That carefulness is the beginning of respect. But you've made yourself predictable. You've made yourself safe. And in the game of power, safe is just another word for obsolete. You are paying for a social harmony that doesn't exist, using a currency you can't afford to lose. It's time to stop paying the tax. It's time to start looking at what you've been hiding from yourself. The cost of your niceness has already bankrupted your potential. Stop being the resource that others mine. Become the architect of your own value. The first step to reclaiming your power isn't learning a new trick. It's acknowledging the dark, heavy weight you've been trying to pretend isn't there. You think you're protecting the world from your darkness, but you're actually just leaving yourself defenseless against theirs. Close your eyes and look toward the basement of your mind. Down there, in the dark, is everything you've been told is bad. Your anger, your greed, your hunger for status, your ego. Since childhood, society has acted as a contractor, sealing that basement door with layers of shame and morality. They told you these traits were defects. They lied. They didn't want to fix you. They wanted to domesticate you. A man who has deleted his ego is a man who can be easily managed. A man who has suppressed his aggression is a man who will never compete for the top of the hierarchy. Think about your aggression. You've been taught it's a fire that burns everything down, but aggression is simply the energy required to change your environment. It is the fuel of the doer. Without it, you are passive. You are a spectator in your own life. When you audit your shadow, you aren't looking for monsters to slay. You are looking for assets to recover. That unreasonable ego you're so afraid of, that is the part of you that believes you deserve to be in the room. It is the part of you that demands a seat at the table instead of waiting for an invitation that will never come. Greed is nothing more than a high-resolution vision of what you want. Subtext matters. If you don't acknowledge your desire for dominance, for wealth, or for influence, you'll never have the focus required to obtain them. You'll just wander, hoping for luck while the players who have integrated their greed are busy carving up the world. You have been carrying a toolkit your whole life, but you've been told the tools are weapons, so you've left them to rust in the dark. Look at the traits you despise in your enemies. You call them ruthless, arrogant, or cold. But look closer. Beneath the label is a functional mechanism. They are using leverage that you refuse to touch. They are using optics you've been taught to avoid. By disowning these parts of yourself, you haven't become better. You've just become less functional. You've handed the keys to the kingdom to those who were brave enough to embrace their own darkness. This audit is cold. It is clinical. There is no room for guilt here. Guilt is the chain the weak use to keep the strong in line. Your darkness isn't a sign of corruption. It is a sign of biological potential. It is the raw, unrefined material of greatness. The architect doesn't judge the stone. He uses its weight to provide stability to the tower. It's time to stop apologizing for having a shadow. It's time to open the door, walk down those stairs, and claim what is yours.
Integration is not an act of destruction. It is an act of engineering. Most people make the mistake of thinking that dealing with their shadow means killing it. They want to be pure. They want to be light. But a building without a foundation in the dark earth will collapse under its own weight. The alchemical shift happens the moment you stop trying to cure your darkness and start trying to utilize it. You are the architect of your own psyche. You don't demolish the basement. You reinforce it so it can support a skyscraper. Think of your shadow as a wild animal. If you lock it in a cage and starve it, it will eventually break the bars and tear you apart. This is why nice people have sudden, terrifying outbursts of rage. They haven't integrated, they've just delayed the explosion. Integration means opening the cage, putting a leash on the beast, and teaching it to walk beside you. You don't want to be the man who can't be cruel. You want to be the man who can be cruel, but has his finger on the safety. That is where true dominance begins. It is the subtext of restrained power. When you walk into a room, people should feel the weight of the monster you keep on a leash. It shouldn't be barking. It should be sitting perfectly still, watching. This creates a specific kind of social leverage. People sense that you are capable of going to dark places if pushed, so they find reasons not to push you. They naturally adjust their behavior to accommodate your hierarchy. You aren't doing anything bad, but the potential for it is written in your posture, your eye contact, and the coldness of your no. This is the shift from being a victim of your impulses to being a master of your tools. Your anger becomes a precise instrument for setting boundaries. Your ego becomes the steel in your spine that refuses to bow to unearned authority. Your greed becomes the fuel for your ambition. You are no longer reacting to your darkness, you are directing it. This is the difference between a house fire and the controlled combustion inside an engine. One destroys, the other drives you forward at 100 miles an hour. Mastery requires you to stop being afraid of your own reflection. The world is built on optics, but power is built on truth. And the truth is that you are a complex, multi-layered being with the capacity for both creation and destruction. The architect doesn't hide the shadows in his blueprints. He uses them to create depth, contrast, and focus. By integrating your shadow, you become a complete player. You gain access to the full spectrum of human behavior. You are no longer limited by the narrow, fragile morality of the herd. You have stopped pretending to be a saint. Now you can finally start becoming a master. The leash is in your hand, the monster is at your side, and for the first time in your life, you are in control.
The most powerful word in the strategist's vocabulary is no. But for the unintegrated, this word is heavy. It tastes like guilt. It feels like a betrayal. When you say no, you feel the immediate, frantic need to explain yourself. You provide reasons. You offer excuses. You try to soften the blow with a dozen "I'm sorries" and "maybe next times." Listen closely. Every explanation you give is a form of submission. By explaining why you are saying no, you are essentially asking for permission to have a boundary. You are signaling to the other person that your no is negotiable, that if they can provide a better argument or a more compelling reason, your boundary will crumble. You are handing them the blueprints to your own bypass. The architect does not explain. The architect decides. A shadow-integrated no is different. It is a wall of cold, unyielding stone. It doesn't need a reason because it is the reason. When the beast is on the leash, you don't need to bark to be heard. You simply state the boundary and let the silence do the heavy lifting. Silence is the ultimate psychological lever in social dynamics. Most people are terrified of it. They will babble, they will compromise, and they will retreat just to fill the void you've created. When you deliver a no without an apology, you are utilizing the optics of the void. You are forcing the other person to confront the reality that your will is sovereign. Practice the mechanics of the shadow no. Look them directly in the eyes. Keep your posture still. Speak the word clearly, flatly, without an upward inflection of a question. Then stop. Do not blink. Do not fidget. Do not look away to ease the tension. The tension is your ally. It is the subtext of danger that signals you are not a plaything. It tells the world that there is a line, and crossing it carries an undefined but certain cost. People don't respect those who are always available. They respect those who have the capacity to be absent. They respect those who can say no and remain perfectly comfortable in the freezing cold of the aftermath. By weaponizing your shadow, you turn your refusal into a high-status signal. You aren't being difficult, you are being expensive. You are signaling that your time, your energy, and your presence are assets that must be earned, not taxes that can be levied by anyone with a loud enough voice. This is how you build a perimeter that no one dares to breach. This is how you move from being a resource to being a master. The no is the first brick in the fortress of your autonomy. Without it, you are just a territory waiting to be colonized. With it, you are a sovereign power.
Presence is not about what you do. It is about what people suspect you are capable of doing. Most people enter a room and immediately begin a performance. They smile too wide, they talk too fast, and they project a frantic energy that screams, "Please like me, I am harmless." This is a low-status broadcast. It tells everyone in the hierarchy that you are a subordinate. The architect understands that power is not a performance. Power is an atmosphere. To weaponize your presence, you must master the art of the unspoken threat. This is the subtext of danger that your shadow provides. It isn't about being a bully or looking for a fight. That is the behavior of the insecure. True dominance is quiet. It is the stillness of a predator that is perfectly comfortable in its own skin. When you have integrated your shadow, your body language changes. You stop fidgeting. You stop leaking energy through nervous micro-movements. You move with a deliberate, calculated economy of motion. Look at the way you use your eyes.
The unintegrated man looks away first. He breaks eye contact to de-escalate, signaling that he is not a threat. The shadow strategist holds the gaze a fraction of a second longer than is socially polite, not to intimidate, but to observe. You are looking for the strings in the other person. You are signaling that you are not afraid of what you might find in their darkness, because you are already intimate with your own. This is the optics of the high-status stranger. When people can't quite categorize you, when you are polite but cold, accessible but distant, they default to a state of caution. They sense a reservoir of power beneath the surface that they cannot measure. This uncertainty is your greatest leverage. In the absence of information, people project their own fears onto you. They assume that if you are this calm, you must have a very good reason to be. They assume that if you aren't trying to please them, you must not need anything from them. Your presence should act as a mirror. When you are still and silent, people will often start over-talking to fill the void. They will reveal their insecurities, their plans, and their weaknesses. While they are busy performing for your approval, you are busy mapping their landscape. This is the ultimate social strategy, to be the most observant person in the room while being the most difficult to read. You don't need to tell people you are dangerous. If you have to say it, you aren't. Let the shadows speak for you. Let the coldness in your eyes and the stillness in your hands tell the story of a man who has walked through the basement and come out the other side. People don't follow nice people. They follow leaders who have the capacity to be bad, but the discipline to be just. That discipline is only visible when the capacity for darkness is felt. You are no longer just another face in the herd. You are a landmark. You are the fixed point around which others rotate. By mastering the optics of presence, you have changed the geometry of every social interaction. You aren't asking for space, you are occupying it. And the world, sensing the weight of your shadow, will move to make room.
Guilt is the favorite weapon of the mediocre. It is the invisible leash that the weak use to restrain the strong. If they can't outcompete you in the hierarchy, they will try to outmoralize you. They will point to your ambition, your coldness, or your boundaries and call them sins. They want you to feel small so they can feel safe. But once you have integrated your shadow, the guilt trap loses its trigger. You can't be manipulated by the darkness you've already mastered in yourself. Think of your shadow as an early warning system. Because you have walked through your own basement, you recognize the smell of manipulation from a mile away. When someone tries to guilt trip you, you don't react with defensiveness. You don't try to prove you're a good person. Instead, you look past their words and see the mechanical strings they are trying to pull. You see the subtext. They are trying to gain leverage over you by hijacking your empathy. The moment you stop caring about being perceived as good, you become untouchable. Most people are paralyzed by the fear of being the villain in someone else's story. The architect knows that the villain is often just the person who refused to be a victim. When you accept that your shadow makes you capable of being the antagonist if necessary, the manipulator loses their power. They say, "How could you be so selfish?" And instead of flinching, you simply observe the tactic. You realize that their morality is just a strategy. They aren't better than you. They're just using a different kind of leverage, shame. To neutralize a guilt-based attack, you must remain cold. Do not explain. Do not justify. Do not get angry. Anger is a sign that the hook has found a nerve. Instead, meet their emotional outburst with a clinical, detached silence. When you refuse to play the role of the guilty party, the manipulator's infrastructure collapses. They are expecting a specific reaction, a softening of your stance. When you provide a hard, dark surface instead,
they lose their balance. You see the world for what it is, a game of interests. When someone uses guilt, they are simply trying to adjust the price of your compliance, but you are no longer for sale. This is the true freedom of the shadow. You are no longer a prisoner of the social contract that demands you be harmless. You have the leverage of indifference. You can look a manipulator in the eye while they cry unfair and feel absolutely nothing, because you know that fair is just a word losers use to try and restart a game they've already lost. You are now the one who decides what is acceptable. You are the one who defines the terms of the engagement. The guilt trap is empty. The leash is broken. And for the first time, you are walking free in the light because you are no longer afraid of the dark.
There is a profound difference between a man who is possessed by his shadow and a man who possesses it. The former is a monster, unpredictable, reactive, and ultimately a slave to his own impulses. He is a house on fire, uncontrolled and destined to burn out. The latter is a sovereign. He has integrated the darkness so thoroughly that it has become part of his internal hierarchy. He doesn't lose his temper, he deploys his aggression. He doesn't suffer from greed, he executes a strategy for expansion. Sovereignty is the ultimate stage of the shadow strategist. It is the transition from being a player to being the architect of the game itself. When you reach this level, your internal world is no longer a democracy of conflicting emotions. It is a monarchy. Your conscious mind sits on the throne, and the shadow is your most trusted, most lethal general. You don't ask the shadow for permission to act. You give it orders. You look at a difficult negotiation and you tell your shadow, "Give me the coldness I need to walk away." You look at a glass ceiling and you tell your shadow, "Give me the hunger I need to shatter it." This is where you achieve true psychological leverage over yourself. Most people are their own worst enemies because they are at war with their own nature. They waste 80% of their energy trying to suppress their bad thoughts. You, however, are operating at 100% efficiency. You have stopped the civil war. You have unified your forces. Notice the subtext of your own decision-making. A sovereign mind doesn't seek external validation for its choices. It doesn't look to the herd to see if its ambition is too much or if its boundaries are too harsh. The only metric that matters is effectiveness. Does this move increase my leverage? Does this action refine my optics? Does this silence serve the long-term architecture of my life? If the answer is yes, the sovereign acts without hesitation and without the need for an audience. This internal alignment creates a terrifyingly potent external reality. People can sense when they are dealing with a unified soul. They see a man who is not hiding from himself, and it unnerves them. It makes them realize how much of their own lives they spend in hiding. Your shadow-integrated presence becomes a silent demand for excellence, or a silent threat to those who intend to waste your time. You are no longer just playing the game. You are the one defining the rules of engagement. You have turned your basement into a powerhouse. You have turned your demons into your disciples. You are finally, undeniably, the master of your own domain.
The door is open. You've seen the basement, and you felt the weight of the leash in your hand. But here is the cold truth of the architect. Knowledge without execution is just another form of sleepwalking. You can close this video and return to your life of niceness. You can go back to being the harmless lamb, smiling while the world shears you for parts. You can keep pretending your shadow doesn't exist. But it will still be there. Every time you swallow an insult, every time you let a boundary be crossed, Every time you watch a lesser man take what you want because he was brave enough to be bad, that is your shadow turning its teeth on you. If you refuse to weaponize your darkness, it doesn't disappear. It just becomes your prison guard. You will spend the rest of your life resenting the world for a weakness that you chose to call a virtue. Wake up. The good man you think you are is a ghost. He is a fiction designed to keep you manageable. Look at the city again. Thousands of people are down there right now, reacting to the world, begging for scraps of approval, and wondering why they feel so empty. They are the prey. You have been given the blueprints to become the player. Integration is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. It is the constant, cold choice to be dangerous and the absolute sovereign will to be disciplined. This is your only warning. The world does not reward the pure. It rewards the effective. If you walk away now and refuse to claim your shadow, do not complain when the shadows of others begin to darken your life. Do not wonder why you are passed over, why you are ignored, or why you are forgotten. You had the weapon, and you were too afraid to hold it. But if you choose to stay, if you choose to carry the beast beside you, then the game changes. You stop being a piece on the board and start being the hand that moves it. You will see the subtext. You will own the optics. You will possess the leverage. You will finally be what you were meant to be before they told you to be small. The architect is done speaking. The board is yours. Now, show me what you're capable of.